Hi, friends. What's up? It's me. It's Ethan. Hanging out. What am I doing? I was checking email, like doing something kind of, I don't know, boring. I did, for those who are tracking, get into my combos that I referenced 2 sessions ago. It was an unopened bag. It's no longer an unopened bag, but I'm just reporting, just a quick snack update. Let's do a different check-in question, though. I've got this cool book here called The Book of Beautiful Questions that I sometimes dip into when I'm looking for a cool question. Let me pull my mic a little bit closer. There we go. Hi, friends. What up? What up, Josh, Solana, Favor? Good to have you back. Ooh, here's a good one. Okay, here's the question. What would future me decide? Oh my gosh, that's so good. I've never seen that question in this book. What would future me decide? That's your check-in question. It's kind of deep. I love that. Posting it in the chat. Take that to mean whatever you want it to mean. What would future me, boy, this is like right in the light here. What would future me decide? Hello from Puerto Rico. What's up, Anna? Let's see. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say about that. We'll get started here in just a minute. We're going to let folks, join the session here. If you're just joining us, the check-in question is in the chat. What would future you decide? Vicky says, go back to sleep. Michael says to keep on moving forward no matter what. Pasta from Valentina. Decide the present of my kids. Interesting. Stevie's getting a shout out. Stevie's moderating again today. Thank you, Stevie. That the stress isn't actually worth it. You're getting snaps for that one. Work hard, but take breaks. Right. No more climbing trees. Did something happen, Eliana? It sounds like something happened. Eat healthy and exercise regularly. If you figure out how to do that, Sarah, will you let me know? Not to apply to so many schools. Yeah. Hello from South Africa. Luyanda, welcome. To worry less. Future me would decide that I need to stop holding back and just fully be me. What would that look like today, Catalina? I sound like I'm suddenly leading like a motivational speak session. Let's lean into that. What would that look like for you today, Catalina? For you to decide to stop holding back and just be fully you. What does that look like practically? I'm curious. To start taking less stress. A lot of folks are saying stress less. I think future me would decide to choose me first. I'm snapping to that as well. To be present. Look at that. Back to back. To be present and to continue living in the moment. If you're just joining us, the check-in question is, what would future me decide? I'm talking about future you. Future me would decide. This is deep. Future me would decide to really chill January through March, because that's kind of down season for college essay and application stuff. To like actually chill, to work 20 hours a week and like do it. I said that I was going to do that in the past and I haven't done it. So maybe this year I'll actually do it. Hi, welcome to the webinar. Welcome, friends. Hopefully you made it for the first session. If you didn't, you've got the recording for that already because you're on this email list. This is our back to school webinar series. And we are, here we are, going back to school. One thing we started with, and some folks dug it, our previous session was just like 10 seconds of just like chill, do nothing time. And so for the next 10 seconds, I want you to do absolutely nothing except just breathe. Ready, go. What are you noticing? I was noticing I was carrying some tension in the way that I was standing, so I released that a little bit. Today we're going to talk about, we talked about the personal statement on our last session. Today we're going to talk about the different parts of the application, your activities list, your why this college essay, some other supplemental essays. And then I'm going to answer a bunch of questions. If you've got questions, you can throw them into the chat. Stevie, thank you, Stevie, is going to be standing by take your calls? No, to basically be putting all of these questions, pasting them into a Google Doc, and then I'll choose some of them and go through them. So let's get into it. I'm not even going to like share an agenda because you've got the agenda in the email, and the things in the email are the things that I'm going to cover. So I'm just going to actually, you know what? People might wonder, what are those things? I'm going to talk to you about how to save time on this application process. That's the first thing I'm going to start with. You can write fewer essays and you can write them better with this thing that I'm going to share with you, with this one weird trick. You know, those like memes when you're like, this one weird trick will trim belly fat. That's what you're going to get. This weird trick will trim your college essay belly fat time. We're going to talk about a why us essay, which is the why this college. Why do you want to attend this school? I'm going to give you some tips on that. I'm going to get into some cool examples. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something called a super essay, which is like related to how it's going to save you time, but I'll give you an example of that. I'm going to answer questions that you have about whatever essays, the why major essay, the extracurricular activity essay. You can feel free to ask me stuff on that and I'll give you tips. I'm going to talk to you about the activities list, which is, well, I already mentioned it, but it's like basically your brag sheet or your resume. And then I'm going to talk to you about what goes in that darn additional information section on the Common App, which is basically this open section. And it's like, put whatever you want here. And you're like, what do I put there? I'll tell you. And then Q&A. All right. So how do you save time on this process? First of all, I feel like students sometimes think that like colleges are checking with one another on like which essays you're submitting. Like you have this in your mind that like, you know what, I feel like I could send this same essay to like this other school, but what if USC like picks up the phone and like calls Michigan and they're like, hey, did Sarah write a volunteering essay about, volunteering at the hospital? Did she send you that one? Oh yeah, she sent that to us. Like they totally don't do that. They don't have time to do that. So it's totally fine to reuse your essays for multiple schools. And in fact, I would recommend it. Why? Two reasons. The first one's kind of obvious, but it's going to save you some time. The second reason, less obvious, is that it's actually going to lead to a better essay. And I want to show you a Venn diagram to illustrate this point. So y'all know what Venn diagrams, y'all know about Venn diagrams, right? If not, somebody's mind is about to be blown. It's like, this is a really useful concept. So let's say, for example, you're writing an essay for Michigan, for example, that's like, describe a community that you belong to and your place within it. And you're like, okay. And you're trying to brainstorm concepts for a community that you belong to. But before you start writing your essay, you look and you see that you have another supplemental essay for Stanford or for whatever school that says, tell us about something that's meaningful to you and why. And you're like, a lot of things are meaningful to me. I don't know what to pick. And then you're also applying to a school that asks you to share a perspective you bring or experiences you've had to help us understand you better. That's for Duke, by the way. And you're like, that feels really open-ended too. And you start to think about, okay, well, what could I write for any of these? Here's what I want to say. I want you to look to your extracurricular activities because they're probably not going to be the main focus of your personal statement, right? And I'll get into why I think that's not a great idea. I didn't really cover that on Tuesday, but I'm happy to cover that. Well, the short version is, I'll just tell you, the short version is I think that when you've got an opportunity to write about an extracurricular activity, you can write about it, but use your supplemental essays because you're going to be able to reuse them, as I'll show you in just a second. If you've already used that in your personal statement, then you're going to be like, what do I write about for this supplement? Also, I find that supplemental or personal statements that are on like a extracurricular activity tend to blend in. They tend to like, if you're writing the volleyball essay, there are so many volleyball essays. So let's say you're brainstorming and you're like, okay, Ethan said to look to my extracurricular activities. And you think about what are the things that I spend my time doing? And you're like, okay, well, a lot of my time is taken up by marching band or improv theater. Let's say you do, let's just grab a little bit more uncommon one. Let's say you do comedy, like you do theater with your friends, improv theater. You know what that is, right? Making up stuff, yes, and you go, describe a community you belong to and your place within it. Is the improv theater community a community that I belong to? Yes. Do I have a place within it? I organize it. I send out the emails or whatever it is. And then you go, tell us about something that's meaningful to you and why. Is improv theater meaningful to me? Yes, but what's deeper, like what's really important to me? What are the values that are important to me? Well, I love the way that it connects me with my friends in a way that I don't get to connect with them in normal life. And so, that's cool. And that actually helps to create a community. Okay, cool. And then has that helped you develop a perspective you bring or experiences you've had to help us understand you better? Yeah. So like, for example, with this improv theater community, I've been able to connect with them in ways that I'm not able to in my everyday life. And what I've learned is that people are so much more than their roles they play. So for example, like in my math class, Alex, who I'm with in math, is like, I know him in this one particular way. When I'm in improv theater, I know him in this like completely different way. And what that's taught me to see is like how when you kind of get people in that yes and space, here we go, insight of improv theater, and people are kind of in that improvisatory, creative, vulnerable space, and we mess up together, then there's a closeness and vulnerability that can happen that actually has developed some cool relationships. All right, so I'm brainstorming on this essay that I've never written before, but to illustrate that improv theater community essay is going to work for Michigan, and it's going to work for Stanford. It's going to work for Duke. I know these are all really highly selective schools, so I apologize, dear counselors who are trying to like get students to not apply to highly selective schools, but they just happen to be the ones that I grabbed for this example. And you go, you know what? I could totally write an essay that works for all three of these. And that's going to save you a whole bunch of time because then you don't have to write 3 separate essays. You just write a really good improv theater community essay. And I'm calling it community because you're focusing on that community, but of course, you're also talking about a perspective you've developed, and you're talking about something that's meaningful to you and why. So here's what I advise. I advise making a big old spreadsheet of all of your personal statement, all of your prompts. What are they called? Your college essay prompts. And then what are the prompts, right? So here are the schools I'm applying to. Here are the prompts. And then looking at what topics could be my potential super topics that could work for several different essays. And let me give you an example of a great super essay that worked in my mind. I think it works for like almost any supplemental essay. I'm going to read you the short version of it. Let me share my screen. Share my screen. All right. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Thanks for holding. Your call is important to us. All right, here we go. All right. This is for my course that I'll tell you about later. This is my course guide. Let me grab it. All right, here we go. So here's this sample essay. Check it out. I'm a history nerd to the point where I would be that guy reading history textbooks for fun. However, reading about history can only go so far. Through Boy Scouts, I've been able to arrange and lead historical trail hikes, giving myself and my troop firsthand perspectives on what it felt like to sleep at Valley Forge in the winter, or what the walk up Breeds Hill along Boston's Freedom Trail is really like. Naturally, I became the troop storyteller along these hikes, adding my own tidbits of information, such as pointing out Eisenhower's 5-star general flag waving from his personal putting green in Gettysburg, or how Spuyten Duyvil was perhaps named following one of the first reported shark attacks in America. Okay, so what he's doing, first of all, is he's taking a common topic, Boy Scouts, and he's giving us a somewhat uncommon take on it. So he's making what I call an uncommon connection. Boy Scouts and history. Okay, those are two things that he's jamming together to make this a little bit more unusual, interesting. Organizing these historical trail hikes has also given me the opportunity to teach younger scouts about various scouting skills, from orienteering, using a map and compass, to conservation principles like leave no trace. My troop engages in historical trail maintenance projects, and we actively monitor a trail we adopted from the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. I especially relish the opportunity to apply what I learned in AP Bio towards actually helping preserve the environment. It's one thing to learn about pollution, global warming, and invasive species in a classroom. It's another thing entirely to see the biodiversity of an ecosystem quickly succumb to man-made pressures. Finally, hiking with the Boy Scouts has given me the chance to help others experience the beauty of the outdoors. On a recent hike, a new scout, Lewis, confided to me how disconnected he felt away from his video games. I stayed with Lewis for the remainder of the hike and pointed out everything from milkweed stalks to coyote scat. After the hike, Lewis was exhausted, but had a glimmer of excitement towards the environment around him and could even tell the difference between poison ivy and Virginia creeper. Lewis is currently one of my troop's most active younger scouts. When I'm hiking, I'm not merely a hiker. I'm a historian, a conservationist, and a teacher, all in one. Bam! I love that essay. Notice the different identities. On Tuesday, we talked about what are your different identities. These are 3 of his identities: historian, conservationist, and a teacher. And he's like stepping into that role here at the end of this essay. He's also giving an ending that's surprising but inevitable. Inevitable because, yeah, he set up these 3 things. Historian, set up in the first paragraph. Okay. Conservationist, the environmental stuff. And then teacher, right? With stuff that he's taught Lewis, Virginia Creeper stuff. Virginia Creeper stuff is a weird thing to say, just in general. But do you notice how this could basically work for pretty much any prompt, right? Like that community that you're a part of. Yeah, I'm part of the Boy Scouting community. And what's your role in that community? I'm the historical trail hike guy, right? What's something that's meaningful to you and why? Taking my troop on historical trail hikes is meaningful to me. And what's a perspective that it's helped you develop? Well, it's helped me develop this perspective on how historical trail hiking with the Boy Scouts makes me a conservationist. What was the other one? Historian, conservationist, and teacher all in one. Okay. I love this strategy. Y'all see what I'm going for here? It's how do you write an essay that works for multiple prompts? Now, you can do this right now. You can start to think about, okay, like concretely, specifically, what is an extracurricular activity that I've spent a whole bunch of time on that I definitely want to get in somewhere into my application? And I could probably have a lot to say about it. And there's a way to test it. Here's how you can test your topic. Check this out. When you think about your extracurricular activity, go to this values exercise. So just go to just Google values exercise, college essay guy. You'll see this big list of values and ask yourself, is this extracurricular activity something that I could connect to a whole bunch of different values? Right? So like the ones that we've named already are like the environment, history, teaching. I mean, there are other ones in here. There's like curiosity. There's also expertise. There are a bunch more. But essentially, if you can come up with a lot of different values that connect to your particular super topic, that might make a good super essay. It's going to save you a whole bunch of time. Did I mention that? Did I mention it's going to save you some time? Okay. This is like bad segue, but let's talk about the YS essays. If you've got questions about this, you can feel free to hit me up in the chat. All right. So actually, before I give you the doc, I want to tell you that I feel like students make some big mistakes in the YS essays. The YS essay is like, why do I want to go to this particular school? And a lot of students are like, because you have a good faculty to student ratio. And I'm just like, imagine how many students are talking about the student to faculty ratio at Michigan. 1 in 5? I don't know. Michigan's probably not a great example. I'll use a smaller school, like one of the, Claremont schools, which sometimes have YS essays. Those are small classrooms. I really want to get in a small classroom. Of course, everybody says that. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about what are the things that everybody's going to talk about, and do not say those things in your YS essay. Look up common traditions, throwing toast on the field at Penn or painting the rock at Northwestern, and do not write about those things. Why? Because other people on this webinar are actually going to be writing about those things. And it's a sure way to blend in. So actually, if you want to blend in, definitely write about those things. Okay. So what should you do? Simple formula. Here's a thing that y'all have, and here's a way that it connects to me. And you're just going to basically research and find a whole bunch of those. So what's an example of that? I'll show you some in an essay in just a minute, but I did not research my college as well. Had I done that, I would have found that Northwestern, where I ended up, was really good for student-produced theater. They had tons of opportunities for students to create their own work. And that's something that I did in college, or in high school, rather. I did it in college too, but I did it in high school a bunch. And I could be like in my YS essay, like, I've been producing plays on my own. I even won an award for one of them. I wouldn't say that in my YS. That would just be in my awards list. What I love about Northwestern is there's so many opportunities for students to create their own work, whether it's through this particular student group or this other particular student theater group that does variations on Shakespeare. Okay. And that simple formula is what you're going to do that's going to make up like the middle of your YS essay. And you're going to try and find stuff that's particular to the school if you can. Okay. I want to give you 3 approaches to this one, and I'm going to kind of go fast over these sample essays. But the first one is what I call the basic, straightforward, solid YS essay, which is like a clear thesis that names the academic area that you want to pursue. So like, I want to major in X, and I believe Michigan or whatever school is the right place for me. You have 3 main reasons, and you've got like 3 to 4 details that support them. And this is for like a 500 to 650 words. So like a longer YS essay, like for Wisconsin or for Cornell, or you could use this for Penn. And then you end it somehow. Maybe you talk about how you'll get back. Here's an example. Mark Twain was a steamboat pilot. Agatha Christie was a nurse. Robert Frost was a light bulb filament changer. The best writers don't just write beautifully, but also integrate their personal experiences and knowledge outside the world of literature. By combining the study of literature, media, and perhaps law, I believe the University of Michigan will provide the education necessary for me to evolve as a journalist. Super clear, right? Here's the thesis. First of all, notice the super short hook, and then here's the thesis. And notice how this maps out literature, media, and law. These are the three main reasons. You can bet your bottom dollar that this paragraph's going to be on literature, this one's going to be on media, and this one's going to be on law. Okay, so boom, clear, mapped out. I know what the student wants to study. Awesome. Let's see some literature stuff. A journalist cannot reach the peak of his craft if his knowledge of literature and critical thinking skills are weak, which is why I'm excited to explore what the Department of English has to offer. All right, here we go. Here's the kind of sentences that we're looking for. I look forward to courses such as academic argumentation and professional writing. Why? As I believe these will provide me with a firm basis in journalistic writing technique and improve my abilities to write analytically and develop well-supported arguments. Y'all, that is a textbook solid YS line. Why? Because it's got the first thing I said, which is like specific things the school is offering, X and Y. But it doesn't just stop there. It's not just like, and that's great, because Michigan knows they offer these classes. What does it have to do with you? How is it going to help you? How is it going to help you up level? I believe these will provide me with a firm basis in journalistic writing technique and improve my abilities to write analytically and develop well-supported arguments. Thank you. Now I have a sense of how we're going to be able to help you. Great. Then there's another example underneath this. Next paragraph. And then I want to also get into media studies. Give me an example. The honors program provides an opportunity for independent research in the field of mass media. Great. How's that going to help you? Here are all the reasons. Yeah, you see where we're going with this? The pre-law advising program. Why is that interesting to you? Because I want to explore the intricacies of law and policies. Why? Because this new field of study wasn't offered in my high school education. Crying emoji. That's great to know. And this is what I call also like, I call this sprinkling a little bit of salt in your essay. What I mean by this is like, if you say like, I wasn't able to do this, you don't have to like be totally experienced in everything that you've ever, like, you don't have to be like, I formed like a dance group, and so therefore I want to form this dance group here. It could be just like, you know what, I didn't get a chance to do this, salt, but you have the water to hydrate and quench my thirst for whatever it is, whether it's a certain kind of dance or pre-law advising. Okay, now some of you are watching this and going, but Ethan, I have no idea what I want to study. I have no idea what I want to major in. Y'all pick something, pick a placeholder. It doesn't really, you don't really, they're not going to come back to you and be like, you know, we saw your application. I know you're a sophomore at Michigan, right? And we saw that you want to transfer and you want to switch your major, but you said that you were going to be a journalist. They're not going to do that, right? This student, by the way, ended up going not even to Michigan. He got into Michigan, but he ended up going to Northwestern. And he ended up not transferring, but going to grad school for going to dental school at USC, right? So you're kind of putting a placeholder here. And I'm not saying like lie and like, but I'm just saying that it can be easier in some cases to pick a few things that you're interested in. So pick one thing or pick a few things. Now, don't just pick journalism because you're like, you know, that seemed to work out for that guy. Like it's got to be something that you ultimately definitely want to study. And that if you get, you know, into a major that you can't like not switch out. In other words, some schools, for example, if you apply to like Northwestern for journalism, not a great idea if you're not actually a journalist, because it's one of the top journalism schools in the world, and it's going to be harder to get in. So as you're thinking about what majors, you might want to find out, do a little bit of research to find out, is it tougher to get in for this particular major? For example, computer science at pretty much anywhere, but especially the UCs, like a lot harder. So if you're going to like, now, by the way, the UCs don't have a YS essay, but you might want to do a little bit of research to see like what major you might apply. And when it comes to YS essays, if you don't know what your major is, what you want it to be, you could potentially pick a placeholder or just pick some things that you're interested in studying and say, I want to study X, Y, and Z at this school. And then you can format your essay based on that. Meaning like, first thing I want to study, second thing I want to study, third. Okay. There's an up-level version of the YS essay. And it goes a little something like this. So that's a really solid version. And you'll find in that essay like 10 to 12 reasons. But if possible, I want you to see if you can find specifics that are particular to the school. So check out this essay real quick. So this one is for Cornell. I'll just scroll down. Whenever I have time on my hands, I hook myself up to my EEG and analyze my brain waves. What? Yeah, super nerdy, and I love it. Or if I'm feeling slightly less adventurous, I'm reading about the latest neuroscience trends in Science Direct or NCBI PubMed. I want to spend my life studying, understanding, and helping to fix the human brain. Okay, so that's kind of like what I would call a personal mission statement. No mention so far of Cornell. And why is the student doing this? Because Cornell asks, so you got to read the prompt carefully. Cornell asks, tell us why the depth, breadth, and flexibility of our curriculum are ideally suited to exploring the areas of studies that excite you. So we need to know, first of all, what are the areas of study that excite you? So therefore, I want to fix the human brain. Establish that. He talks about buying an EEG online 2 years ago and studying, this is super nerdy language, which is great, demonstrates his depth of knowledge. He was comparing circadian and non-circadian sleep on brainwaves. And he looks forward to gaining a deeper understanding of the fundamentals of neurophysiology, what I want to study, in courses like Principles of Neurophysiology. Okay, why? Why Cornell? As someone who's long been passionate about neurotechnology, I appreciate Cornell is unique in offering classes devoted specifically to the field. What? Okay, so Cornell is going to offer things that no other school or that very few schools offer. And he's done the research to find that out. And now if I'm Cornell, I'm like, oh, I feel kind of special because you pointed out a thing that we do that not other people do. And it really specifically connects to a thing that you really want to do. So that starts to feel like fit, y'all. What else? I also want to contribute my experiences working in the NeuroNext Hub. And I love this that he kind of gives, and the other student did this too, but I didn't go over it. He's like, here's how I want to give back. So he wants to work in the NeuroNext Hub. Wants to work with Dr. Chris Hsu doing this 3-photon microscope thing. Sounds legit. I also look forward to helping Dr. Chris Schaefer, wait for it, whose research on deep neural activity is not being done anywhere else in the world. Now, I don't know how he knows that, but I'm super into the fact that there's a second thing that Cornell has to offer him that not other schools are offering, and I'm here for it. Second one. Then he talks about a professor's class that he audited. You don't have to visit the school in order to get in. He talks about classical languages and their impacts on the brain. And then look at this coup de grace. Cornell is also the only university I'm interested in that offers a speaking course in Latin, conversational Latin. Cornell is special to me, as my daughter's best friend, Michaela, says. Cornell is, and she's like 4 years old. That's special to him. Cornell is special to him. Y'all, you have to prove that whatever school is special to you. Why do I love this one? Because again, there's like a short thesis. I mean, a short like intro here. The thesis is not therefore at Cornell, but it's more like, here's my personal mission statement. And then he gets into the Cornell stuff like pretty quickly. The main thing is that I call this the 5 to 8 reasons approach. This is approach number 2, the 3 to 5 unique offerings strategy. So if you can find 3 to 5 things that set that school apart, chef's kiss, beautiful. Now there's a third approach, which is harder. I don't know if I want to spend time on this right now, but the third approach is like to just focus on one particular value. And I don't necessarily think this is better. It's just some schools like Bowdoin, and I don't think that they're doing it this year, but you'll have to look it up and see. They had a prompt that was like specifically like, here's some things that we are into. And pick one of them and tell us basically, about your commitment to that thing. And I'll read the prompt. Bowdoin students and alumni often cite world-class faculty and opportunities for intellectual engagement, the college's commitment to the common good, and the special quality of life on the coast of Maine as important aspects of the Bowdoin experience. Reflecting on your own interests and experiences, please comment on one of the following: intellectual engagement, the common good, connection to place. I'm not going to go through this one today, but I'm just going to say that there are other possibilities here where you basically just focus on one particular thing. In this case, he focuses on connection to place, and he dives in like deep on how to focus on, he like tells a story about that. And then he connects it to Bowdoin at the very end. And I think it works really well. The reason I'm not going into that is because I want to get to some other stuff. And because I'm going to get into that on the course, which is, did I mention yesterday, Tuesday, pay what you can? People are like, what is he talking about? First of all, quick PSA. If you are identify as a low-income student and you would like some college application help, Stevie's going to throw a link in the chat, but our Matchlighters program, let me just do a quick plug for Matchlighters because it's super awesome and because we need you. Because without you, Matchlighters doesn't work. So if you are a low-income student, we want you and we need you for this program to work. What is it? It's a program where we offer free college application counseling for high-achieving low-income students from experienced college counselors. No strings attached. There's nothing that we're selling, or we just want to connect you. We have hundreds. We have like 500 counselors who've signed up for this program, and like a bunch of them are just sitting around waiting because we don't have enough students right now. That's sad, right? That we're in August. We've been putting this out to our email list of like 150,000 people, and we're like, hey, we need more students, and we don't have enough students. So we need you. You sign up here, you get paired with a counselor, you get some help. That's it. That's how it works. I would love to see like 50 of y'all apply right now. You got to be low income. Pausing to hydrate and so that you'll apply for that program. All right. The second thing that I'll talk about in a few minutes is this course that I'm leading. That's, again, pay what you can, because access is really important to me. That's going to basically walk you through that essay. The third one that I didn't go over. Okay. Stevie, will you share a link for that so that folks see what that is in case they're wondering? Okay. Because I keep talking about it. Because it's starting on like in a week and a half and I keep thinking about it. Activities list. So a lot of students kind of undersell themselves on their activities list. They'll spend like maybe half an hour on this and they'll be like, is this good? And I'm like, it's kind of good. How long did you spend on this? And they're like, half an hour. And I'm like, all right. So when it comes to your activities list, you got the Common App, you've got your 10 activities that you can list, and you've got 150 character descriptions. So that's like a tweet, basically, like less than a tweet. And you got to describe the depth of your involvement in that and in like 150 characters. Okay. So how do you do it? 3 ways. One is strong verbs. So I'm going to do the kind of the fast version of this because I want to get to Q&A. But when it comes to describing the things that you've done, if you're like, you've done art club and you're like, art club, member of art club. And what did I do? Painted and connected with other members of art club. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. One of the things that's really important is if you can get some really strong verbs, that can help us. I'm going to flash this resource and y'all are going to be like, where do I get this? And it's going to be like annoying for some of you. If you can get some really strong verbs, like for example, art club, what did you do? Well, I coordinated me. Oh, coordinating would be a good verb. Maybe I could get coordinated in there. I developed some things. Yeah. You know what? I did found it. I totally did found it. My friend and I came up with the idea. So I am a founder. Awesome. What else did you do? Well, I contacted the sponsor to get sponsors. This is totally a way to remember. This is totally how this goes for some of you too, right? What did you do? I grew the club. Yeah, I grew the club. It started off as 3 members and now it's 7 members. So I grew the club membership by 200% or 100% or whatever that works out to. You see where this game is? This is the epic list of activities list verbs. And yes, you do have to sign up for the course to get this, but it's also pay what you can. But that's the first thing that I want to say to y'all is like active verbs are totally a great way to make your activities list pop. Because if you can get some different verb phrases in there, it's going to be chef's kiss awesome. The second thing to do is just ask yourself a whole bunch of questions, and you can do it related to this about what you did, because you got to remember the stuff you did. And there's a resource for this, which I'm not going into right this moment, but it's called the BBS exercise, which is the best extracurricular activity brainstorm I've ever seen. And basically it goes like, actually, I can show it to you real quick. BBS. It's such a silly name. I know. Here are the questions. All right. Here are the questions to ask yourself if you want to up-level your activities list. All right. A whole bunch of them. You can screenshot it if you want. What did you do? Use the epic list of activities list verbs. What problems did you solve or tackle related to all of these kinds of things? What lessons did you learn or skills did you gain? What impact did you have? Did you raise some money? If so, how much? How did you apply what you learned? So did you learn some such and such skills that you were able to apply elsewhere? Okay. These 5 questions will help you come up with more content for your activities list descriptions. They'll take it from like just okay to awesome, just asking yourself these questions and using awesome verbs. The third thing you can do is do a values scan. A values scan is like, look at your description and go, okay, which values am I getting from this? Like if I say organize meetings, then what is the value from that? Well, responsible or able to be organized. If I say created posters, it's like, oh, that person's creative and also has a pen or markers and also has crayons. If I say that I led the club meetings, then that shows whatever it shows, leadership or whatever you want to say. You can you can do this if you've already written an activities list. You can scan your activities and go, which values am I showing? And then ask yourself, which values could I be showing? Or which values do I want to be showing, but I'm not really? Like I was the leader of this club, but I'm totally not getting my leadership responsibilities from this tiny description. You don't have to use complete sentences for your activities list description. You can totally use these like fragments. Okay. That's some activities list stuff. Another one is the additional info section. Students are sometimes confused about what to put in their additional info. So the additional information section is, let me see if there's like a quick, I'm trying to find you like a quick example of some of this. I'm not going to share my screen this time. I'm just going to like talk you through it. I'm going to talk you through it. All right. Sometimes I will do other voices. I take requests. All right. So what do you put in this additional info section anyway? I wouldn't put an additional personal statement because they're asking for one personal statement. They're not like, hey, could you hook us up with a second? No. I mean, sometimes students do this, but if you do that, keep it short. What I'd say goes here instead is like additional overflow stuff that didn't fit in your activities list. Like if you did this super awesome epic fundraiser and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent so much time on that. It took me like a year and I only have 150 characters to describe it. I've got to put more stuff in that. Additional info. It could be that you've got health stuff, health issues, could be physical, could be mental health. And you're like, should I put that in my personal statement? I feel like I don't want that to define me. Put in your additional info. Do a quick bullet point description. Whatever that thing is. And by the way, if there's something that's kind of complex, because I'm about to get spammed with questions in the chat, ask your counselor. If it's something related to like mental health, or if it's related to like ADHD or something like that, ask your counselor. Chances are though, if you do have a question about that, it is something that could be covered in additional info kind of briefly. And then you can write your personal statement about whatever else you want. It could just be some awesome thing, other side of you. And then you won't have to be, if you want to weave that in, that's fine. But a lot of the health issues that students write about are pretty common. ADHD is an example of that, where it's like a pretty common personal statement topic. So, hey, I have ADHD. Here's the challenge. Here's how that impacts me. Here's what I've done about it, accommodations. And here's what I've learned through the experience. Bada bing, bada boom. We go on to whatever and the personal statement's all about your historical trail hiking or how baking is truly the key to becoming a great engineer. Someone's like, ooh, snap, that's a pretty good idea. Let me do that. What else goes here? Any potential red flags? If you've got like a pretty awesome, like solid D in physics, and they're going to be like, how about that D in physics? You could be like, all right, about that D. And then you can kind of explain that, right? Or if you've got stuff that's like, maybe you haven't been super involved in extracurriculars because, I don't know, you were going through a pandemic. That actually doesn't go here. There's like a separate COVID additional info section where you can explain stuff like that. Or maybe you're like, you're coming back to school and you're like ready for some extracurriculars. And then you look at your marching band schedule and you're like, are they serious? Like 20 hours of marching band a week? Like that's ridiculous. And you're feeling a little self-conscious because you're like, I just don't have any extracurriculars. Additional info section. Hey, about those extracurricular activities. And then you don't have to put that in your personal statement and be like, you want to get to know me personally? Let me tell you about my extracurriculars and why I haven't been involved. No, put that in your additional info. So you don't have to put that in your personal statement. What else? Family members, illnesses, things related to that. You can either go in the COVID section if it's related there, or this could go to additional info. If your school has like a weird grading system, that could go there. If you've taken like odd classes or you're like dual enrolled, all that stuff, additional info. I'm going to get spam in the chat. Can such and such go in the additional info? Yes, it can. It can either go in the activities list if it's an activity, or if it's not, put in the additional info. Taking IB and you've got like an awesome extended essay that you've spent all this time on. You spent like 60 hours of your life perfecting your IB extended essay, put in additional info. I should do a song for this. Other important stuff, acronyms. Yeah. Anyway, all that stuff can go in your additional information section. Some of you are like, I never even heard of this section until today. Thanks, Ethan. And I'm like, the more you know. I wish I had that. I don't know. That was like a 90s commercial thing. I don't really have that. I don't really have the capability to do that magically with my hands like I used to. What else? What do y'all have questions about? Throw it in the chat. Let's segue. I like this, like kind of doing short sessions and then segueing into chat. Yeah, let's do this. Let me give you a quick PSA for the course so that you can know what that is. It's basically hanging out with me like this on Saturdays. If you want to spend your Saturdays with me, your next 4 Saturdays with me, here's how. Online courses for students. Stevie will throw this in the chat if you want to sign up. The personal statement, I already went over that one. Let me show you what we're going to cover in the other course. Live sessions run September 4th to 25th, or get started writing today. That's what a voiceover for this course would sound like. Week 1, brainstorming in the big picture. I'll teach you how to map out how to create an inspired application in half the time. Module 2, the activities list, additional info, and the Why Us essay. Sorry, I'll stop. That's really annoying. A bunch of video lessons, a bunch of sample essays, a bunch of workbook stuff. I can show you the workbook. Actually, you know what? I will show you the workbook because it's kind of awesome. And sometimes I don't. And people are like, oh, it comes with a workbook. And I'm like, yeah. And the workbook is super rad. Here it is. It's kind of a workbook. It's actually just an epic PDF that has a whole bunch of sample essays. Let me scroll to it. Here we go. So it's got things like, it's got so many sample essays. It's got sample essays for all of these. I think there were like 30 or something sample essays, a bunch of pre-work. It's basically going to organize your entire application process. Super topics list, things to think about when you're writing your super topic, a guide for writing the activities list. That's super epic guide for epic verbs list, the best, whoa, Freudian slip. The best extracurricular activity brainstorm I've ever seen. I'm going too fast. I'm trying to go fast through the commercial portion of our session. Whatever. The course guide's awesome. And then last thing, and then I promise we're going to go to Q&A. We're going to have like 20 minutes for Q&A, which is like more than Q&As usually have. So I'm feeling pretty stoked about that. What am I doing? I'm awkwardly going through my screen in front of 550 people, which is totally what I should be doing right now, right? What am I doing with my life? There it is. Okay. Okay, here it is. Here. Other things that are happening on the course. You can look at the syllabus, but it's like creating an inspired application. I talked about this already. Activities and awards list. I'm going to talk to you about the extracurricular essay. I didn't really talk about that much today. I'm going to talk to you. There's all these guides for the supplemental essays, how to write the short answers if you're writing those, how to make sure your application is actually doing its job. And then we're going to do Q&A sessions like this for like an hour and a half. So the way it works is Saturdays in the morning, my time, Pacific, Los Angeles time, 10 to 11:30. I'm actually not going to quote times because sometimes I misquote them and sometimes people are confused. But basically for an hour and a half, you're going to have assignments and you're going to come and you're going to ask questions and I'm going to like tell you stuff about your essays. That's personal statement. And then you'll take a break or you'll be like crazy working on stuff. And then you'll do stuff on the application and the supplemental essays. And we'll talk about it. It'll be awesome. I'll do more voices. And then in a month, you'll be pretty much done with stuff. If you follow the steps and you work along, you should be pretty GTG, good to go. Is that an abbreviation that you all use? GTG. All right. I've only got 70 questions to answer. Okay. Let me get into this. Sorry. All right. Valentina, I wouldn't necessarily write about being an international student. It's a pretty overused topic. I would say do more stuff. Can you put a research project that you're currently doing for an independent studies class? Yeah, probably. And if you haven't explained it somewhere in your application, you could put it in your additional info. Okay. How many essays do we need to write for colleges? Oh, that's a good question. Probably just do the math. Like, it depends on how many schools you're applying to. So some schools have 0 supplemental essays. Like Northeastern mercifully has 0 essays. So that would be 0 extra essays. Stanford has like 8, 3 250 word ones and then some other short ones, but they're kind of 50 words. So maybe they're not essays. So maybe it has 3 and some short answers. MIT has like 8. And Michigan has like 2 extras. So it depends on the schools, but like, I would say if you're applying to 10 schools, you're probably going to have like 20 different prompts. I would just kind of guesstimate. Let's say you're applying to the UCs, the University of California schools, totally separate course, not covering it now, covering it after this course, probably in October, is going to be like 4, particular, they're not essays, they're personal insight questions. But I would guess, Alexa, you're going to have like 20 prompts, but hopefully you're writing like your main personal statement and you're writing like 5 to 6 other main pieces that you're reusing. How to fill out the honors section of the Common App. I mean, I don't have a ton to say about that. Like, fill it out, make sure that here's what I'll say. Make sure that you include selectivity. So if you were chosen out of like many different schools, or many different students. Like, let's say you were like 5 of us were chosen out of 400. Like, say that. Give us some selectivity. Alexa, you're asking, what about UC schools? They have 4 personal insight questions. If you Google UC College Essay Guide, you'll see a whole free guide to that. And I've got a whole course on that too if you want. Also, pay what you can. You're welcome. Let's see. I'm going to kind of skip around. For the activities list. Oh, for the activities list, how do you approach activities that are personal hobbies rather than clubs or things you've been awarded for? Matthew, make them legit. Use that epic list of activities as verbs and like put it in there. Like basically, I want you to know. I want the college to know all those awesome things that you've done that count. Like students think that things like, for example, they work for their family, and they're like, no, or they like have really extraordinary personal responsibilities for their family. These are not hobbies. This is like, I had to work to support my family because we had financial difficulties. That is an activity. Put it in there. Or, I've been doing this Minecraft server for like all this time. Is that an activity? Totally. Tell us all the skills you developed. Okay. Tips for narrowing down your college list. Research, Kevin. Research. Good resources to help you find out more about colleges. Yes. Google college essay guy, college list. And you'll see my whole guide to that. It's pretty long. And there are like all these free resources around it. And there's also, Stevie, maybe you can grab it from our events page, but I did a webinar at our college fair that we did during the summer that was like, here's how to develop your college list in like 45 minutes. And it like walks you through how to do that. So maybe Stevie, if you'll throw in a link to that, that would be super awesome. Maybe just throw in a link to our events page too, because then folks can see past events. By the way, did I mention I have a YouTube channel? Smash that like button, hit subscribe. I've got lots of stuff there that's coming out each week on these topics. So when you write a super essay, should you change the thesis statement for each prompt? I mean, if it feels relevant, it just depends on how you write it. Like that hiking essay doesn't really need to change much, but if you want to be like, if you want to like be like super explicit and be like, the community, so the meaningful community to me has been my hiking community, or like my Boy Scouts community, but in this particular way, like if you want to do that, sure, that's fine, but it might be kind of obvious. How long would a super essay be? 650, 250? It just depends, Raj. Your super essay is going to be, the longest version of it is going to be the longest prompt that you need to write it for, right? So if you've got a school that's like, asking for a 750 word essay, then you'll probably do a 750 word version of that. And then you'll cut it down for other schools. There aren't many that are 750, but there's like a couple. If a school is close to you, should you mention that and mention that you'd like the location because it's familiar to you? I mean, get a little bit more in depth, Jacob, with like what value that is for you. Like, why is it important for you to go to school close to you? Is it because your family's there? If so, that's legit. I mean, this is also true for like students applying to places like BU. It's like, I have family in Boston, so I want to be close. And it's kind of like, oh, cool. What they really want to know is like, are you likely to enroll? So Caroline just gave a random shout out to Hannah. Hannah, shout out. Hope you're doing well. Carolyn says hello. I hope everything's awesome. Let's see. Does our essay supposed to show the career goals we're going to take? If it's asking for that, like if they're asking, why do you want to major in what you want to major in? Then yeah, that would be a good thing to do. But if it's like a personal statement, maybe not. You don't necessarily need to. I have too many achievements. I love this. Which one should I include? Include 10, include your top 10 and put the rest in additional info. But can I show a shorter YS essay? I'm applying to a school that has a 150 word limit. I can just tell you what to do. Have your thesis in the start, Maite. Like put your thesis, because I don't have it like right here, but put your thesis at the start and then go into basically probably do like 2 to 3 reasons. Okay. And I'm trying to guess which, are you talking about? Is it Yale? Is it Purdue? Is it UIUC? Is it, see if I can guess it. It's not Brown. Brown's 250. Is it MIT, but it's not quite a YS? See, let me know if I guessed it, MIT. How many days will it take to write a perfect essay? That question came in from someone private. 37, I think, is how many days it would take to write a perfect essay. What's the best way to research specifics on the internet? Yes. So a few different resources, but the internet is a great one. But yeah, mainly, I mean, there's some really awesome sites. The first place I'd say is go to the school's website because there's going to be awesome stuff there. Oh, it's Oxy. Okay, I didn't get it right. Thanks. The advice will still apply, but I would say go to the school's website and click deep on their website. See if you can find an abstract from the school, like a class that you might take. Do you have to do any serious research when preparing to write your essay? When you're writing a YS essay, yeah, totally serious research. That's where all your content's going to come from. For a very short YS essay, should you write about a lot of one or two reasons, or briefly touch on many reasons? Erica, I would say either do 2 or 3 and like a sentence or 2 on each, or you could just do this kind of like cool montage, like a sentence, like just list all the reasons. Now, if you do that, the problem is it's not going to be like connecting back to you. But I've seen students do that, and it's kind of cool. Seen. I like kind of remix myself. I've seen students do like a list of things, and it was really cool. Daniel says 37, that gives me a week to edit. Time to get started. Nice. Should the essay contain which career path? I answered that. How do you answer the 150 characters questions? So the key for the short answers, Claire, is I want you to kind of think of this like an advent calendar. An advent calendar is like one of those things, the holidays, maybe you've seen these, that you have like a thing and you get these little windows that you kind of need to open every day leading up to like whatever the holiday is. And then inside you got like this cool little thing. You're basically, for your short answers, you're like opening up these little tiny windows into you. So USC asks about something like, I'm trying to think of what they asked this year because I haven't actually looked at the updated prompts. But in the past, they've asked you that, what is your favorite food? And if you're just like pizza, then we're going to be like, cool, I like pizza too. But if you can get really specific with the kind of pizza, or is it like a homemade pizza or like a pizza that you make with your mom or like something like that, you can see some values, that can start to give us more information. So ask yourself, could I reveal some values, things that are important to me through these tiny descriptions? How cliche is breaking up the hierarchy of senior and freshman on a baseball team in the past was very hierarchical? For what prompt? I guess that's the question. What do you recommend when doing the application for Harvard or Columbia? I got stuff for Harvard. Okay. So when you're applying to Harvard, you've got like, basically you've got your personal statement, which is going to be the essay that you write. It's going to go to many schools. Okay. But if you've got Harvard, you're going to be writing like a really long second essay, which is, they don't give an exact word limit, but it's like 650 words. The way that I advise this is like, think of this as 2 personal statements, where the one personal statement is going to be on things like, I don't know, whatever it is, like whatever the thing is that you want to write about. So for example, students have written about like food and here's how food connects to many different areas of my life. This is a student that I worked with who got into Harvard. He was writing about how food connects to all these different sides of him, and it's really awesome. And that's his main personal statement. And it shows family and it shows his connection to some extracurricular activities. And then his second essay needs to show a different side of himself. And this student happened to be like backup quarterback for his, high school football team. But he really struggled with the pressure to like be a man. He'd heard that expression so much in his life from his father and like other people that he was just like, ugh. And so toxic masculinity was like a big thing in his life. And he wanted to reveal, sort of his softer side and be like, I have polar bears on my bed. And you put me in Home Depot and I like wouldn't know what to do. I'd rather go through the supermarket than go through through Home Depot. And so he used that to show this other side of himself. So I guess what I would ask you to do is think about, okay, if my personal statement is going to be red or whatever that is, or red, blue, and purple, because I want to show these sides of me, how could I complement that with some green and some orange? Like what other sides of myself could I show? Could my Harvard supplemental essay be like why I want to pursue the major I want to pursue? Maybe it's a super essay that I'm going to use for all these different schools, but it's got to be showing something different from your personal statement. Okay. And then you've got some like other short pieces that you'll write for Harvard, but those are kind of the main things to think about. For Columbia, because you asked, Ria, Columbia's got your YS essay, which is like, why do you want to go to Columbia? And then they've got their Y major essay, which annoyingly comes after it. But you got to basically say why you want to major and what you want to major in. Don't have time to cover that right now, but the short answer is like create a little mini montage of the moments that led you to your major. And then they've got the lists. The lists, by the way, you don't need to expand on like each book that you list. You can just list the things, and they actually, I think, prefer that. There's one more that I'm not remembering, but essentially it's sort of like, how can each one of these reveal some different side of you? Oh, Stevie, you are an angel. Someone just called you an angel. Okay. Do you recommend answering every question if they're optional? I mean, it depends. Some are like, it's hard. There's a spectrum of optional. So like, if it's an optional, most of the time, yes. But if it's like, hey, Duke has a question that's about like gender and sexual identity, the LGBTQ, or they'll also reference like, hey, if this LGBTQ, world, somehow, if there's something about your gender identity or sexual identity you want to share, let us know. If not, you don't have to. It's optional. Like that one's actually optional. So it's hard to know. I mean, I guess if you asked me about a particular prompt, I could give you my opinion on it. But if it's like, do you want to submit a second essay on anything you want? Then I would say actually do that, because if you don't, there's like, it's like a missed opportunity. Okay. All right. How do you choose what awards or extracurriculars to add? Again, choose your best, and then, and then put the rest in additional info. Okay. What else? Bring in more questions. Let's see. In additional info, could I put dual enrollment classes? For sure. Yes. Any tips on making a super essay? I think I gave you some. Can you leave additional info blank? Yes, totally. You can, sorry, that's in my guide to this, but like you can absolutely leave it blank, and students do it all the time. Okay. What else? How much sports details do you include for student athletes? Which essay? Do you mean the essay or activities list? Get in this. Give me the notes. Let me pick some other ones. For the interviews, what are good questions to ask them? Google interview college essay guy, and you'll see a whole list. What do you recommend applying to Harvard? I did that one. Is there? How do you choose a hook? Google start your college essay guy, and there's a guide, 9 different ways to do it. Oh, the chat's laggy. It's like 40 minutes late. Oh, my bad. 40 minutes? Oh my gosh, that's a lot. These things were posted 40 minutes ago? Wow. For gap year students, you can basically be straightforward with that. Just go straightforward with just explaining what you've done, especially if it's the 250 word version. Can the additional info section be blank? Yes, totally. Just want to reemphasize that. How do I list achievements if I haven't done anything crazy? I have a ton of APs. Would that be an achievement? I wouldn't list APs as an achievement. You got to work with what you got. Like list what you've got, and then other than that, like that's your application. Are sports essays always too cliche? Or are they okay if you incorporate not as cliche values? I would say like 90% of them are. It's just harder to do it well. Oh, Haley, Mia says what's up. But I just think that they're harder to do well. But no, and it is possible to do a sports essay well. If you asked me for an example, though, I couldn't give you one because I haven't actually seen one. But if you write one this year, will you please email it to me? You can send it through the website. I'd love to see it. In fact, if anybody on this call has read an amazing sports essay that they think is really beautiful, I've been doing this for like 15 years, and I've never seen an incredible sports essay. So if anybody can send me one, I'd love to see it. That's kind of a crazy realization. Should we attach resumes if it's optional? If you're including something additional, if it's just your activities list, then how do we help teachers write awesome letters of recommendation? Audrey, Because we've got 1 minute left, just Google teacher recommendation letter, college essay guy, and you'll find it. All right. One more question. Can you stand out by being sort of offbeat, Teddy? Absolutely. Absolutely. If so, how offbeat can you safely be? Just be careful. Just don't make it weird. No, I mean, a little bit weird is good, right? You want to be vulnerable. You want to show those weird sides of yourself. How offbeat? I mean, try it, like go for it, and then show your essay to somebody and be like, is this too weird? I would say the key actually is, are you revealing core values and insights? So core values are like those things that I showed earlier. Google core values college essay guy and you'll see a list. But whatever weird thing you're showing, give us those core values, and that's going to help, deepen your essay, and it's going to help us see what this is really, whatever the thing is, that you're trying to show, why it's meaningful to you, whatever the thing is that you're interested in. What can I write to win a scholarship? Bonus question. Yenny, Google scholarship college essay guy. You'll see a guide to the top 10 scholarships. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've got a whole guide on that coming out really soon. And I've got a bunch of different scholarship essay examples. I got to go. My daughter's having soccer practice right now. So I got to go meet her and pick her up and take her some water. And I hope I see y'all on the course. Sign up. I'd love to be with you a little more. And this was fun. So that's it. Much love. See you soon.